Okay, first off, this isn't really a review. If you want a review, the movie sucked. There's your review. The movie sucks. You can go now, done. There's your review. Anybody that actually says that this movie was okay or was fine or was good are idiots. They're probably the same idiots that thought John Wick 3 was a good John Wick movie. Probably thought that Rambo Last Blood was a good Rambo movie. This was a good movie. This was acceptable. It's the best movie. It's the best Terminator movie since T3. I don't give a damn. Who cares? It's the least shitty movie. Why not say what it really is? It's the least shittiest movie since T2. I don't care. I don't care if it's the least shittiest movie since T2. It's still a shitty movie. It's the best movie since T2. Who cares? It's still the shittiest movie since T2. Anyway, here's the biggest problem I had with Dark Fate was because it had all the ingredients to be a goddamn epic kick-ass movie. And Tim Miller screwed the pooch and wasted it so goddamn hard he should be taken out behind the shed and be beaten with something. Let me explain. T1, okay? Human goes back in time to save Sarah Connor from a Terminator. T2, a Terminator comes back in time to save John Connor from a Terminator. Same basic premise as the first movie, but a new twist, right? Instead of it being a human versus a Terminator, now it's a Terminator versus a Terminator. That's interesting, and the movie and T2 did such an amazing job with it and with that concept that's why we all loved the movie. Obviously, the special effects played an important role, and oh god, I can't remember the name of the actor for the T-1000. But the T-1000 was an interesting Terminator. Like the T-800, Arnold Schwarzenegger's Terminator, had an interesting personality and characteristics. The T-1000 also had a little bit of humor with that little, and that look of anger and disappointment every time he failed. There was certain, with the Rev 9, he had nothing. He had absolutely nothing. He was just nothing more than a machine. Okay? There was like that one scene with a glimpse where he's about to go through the metal detector and he goes, "My whole body's a weapon." That was funny. Why couldn't you have added more stuff like that to, the Rev 9? Nah, because Tim Miller has no goddamn clue what he's doing. So anyway, sorry, I segue a lot. You're gonna either get used to it or go home, because that's what's gonna happen. So now we have this movie. Now let me explain to you what this movie was. This movie had a cybernetically enhanced human going back to the past to save Danny from another Terminator. That was the new twist. Think about it. A cybernetically enhanced human versus a Terminator. Sorry, that works. Okay? Now, I didn't really play Cyberpunk. I was more of a Shadowrun. But a Street Samurai versus a Terminator. Now, here's the thing. You're going, but it was just a T-800 mixed in with a T-1000. Yeah, think about it. A T-800 with a Venom symbiote attached to it. That's what this movie would have been. It would have been a cybernetically enhanced cyberpunk human versus a T-800 with the Venom symbiote. Tell me that wouldn't have been an amazing movie. Tell me that wouldn't have rocked. Okay? That would have been one of the biggest and best death battle versus whatever on screen. Okay? And the fact, and here's how we wasted it. Grace, all she got was enhanced strength and enhanced speed. Somebody chrome this bitch up. I mean, give her dermal armor plating, Wolverine claws, some kind of attachment that opens up to some type of gun portal, anything. What was that? Like wired reflexes. No, we're just gonna have it be some regular human that's really strong sometimes, really fast sometimes, when the movie needs her to be fast, but not when the movie needs her to be fast. It's like, Jesus Christ. I could understand her being just an augmented human with just super speed and super strength in 1980s when the special effects wouldn't have been able to provide otherwise. Hey, Tim Miller, it's 2019. I think we have the technology to portray a cybernetic human on screen nowadays. Okay, obviously it wasn't shown with the Rev 9, but even with what little you had, I mean, seriously, chrome this bitch up. This should have been an epic battle. And as much as I love Linda Hamilton, and all respect to Linda Hamilton, she shouldn't have been in this movie. And with all respect to Arnold Schwarzenegger, he shouldn't have been in this movie. This should have been just like T1, where it was Kyle Reese versus the T800. It should have been just like the second one, where it was the T800 versus the T1000. This movie should have been Grace versus the Rev 9. Okay? And the only reason Linda Hamilton and Arnold Schwarzenegger were in this movie is because Tim Miller knew that this movie could not stand on its own. He's that inept and that useless that he knew that this movie on his own, he has no skill or abilities to do what this movie needed to do, and he needed Linda Hamilton and Arnold Schwarzenegger in this movie just to prop it up to the level of fail it has now. Because this is the level of fail it has now. Okay? If it wasn't for Arnold Schwarzenegger and Linda Hamilton, this movie would have been absolutely useless. Nothing. Okay? Because I'm sorry. A cybernetically enhanced human versus a T-800 with the Venom symbiote. Come on! And not only that, Grace's character, the Grace, is so useless. She is the most ineffective aspect of the people. She's supposed to be the one coming back to save Danny, and is the least capable one. Within 10 seconds of Sarah Connor showing up and taking out the Rev 9 by herself, a human with nothing more than 20th century weapons, in 10 seconds did what Danny couldn't do the entire movie. Okay? In T1, Kyle Reese, a plain, regular human, was able to protect and evade and deal with a T-800. Danny, or Grace, an augmented human, couldn't do anything without Linda Hamilton, without Sarah Connor helping her and the T-800 helping her. Because if the T-800 and Sarah Connor weren't in this, Grace would have been useless. Grace would have been dead. She would have been dead within the first... If Sarah Connor hadn't shown up on the bridge, the movie would have been over. It's not like Grace could do anything on her own. She was defeated on the first major fight versus the Rev 9 or the Rev 7. I can't remember which one it is. She was absolutely useless as a protector. This movie should have been absolutely epic. It had all the ingredients, and I was so pissed that they didn't do anything. And then we have the Rev 9. I swear to God, I can't remember if it's a Rev 7 or a Rev 9. I'm just going to call it a Rev 9. The Rev 9 was so simplistic and basic when it was the exoskeleton or the liquid or the T-1000. Combine them! Literally make it that it's the Venom symbiote. That should have been, even if the special effects were as low grade as they were in this movie, the very idea of it should have been awesome. Would have been awesome. But apparently Tim Miller, surprise, surprise, has no goddamn clue what he's doing. The writers, and what was it? Cameron was only a partial writer, so who knows how little or how much he even contributed. But the writers have no... I got another question. Explain to me how the T-800 is in this movie. Okay? It's not the Terminator from T1. It was smashed, disassembled, and taken apart and studied by Cyberdyne Industries. It wasn't the T-800. It wasn't the Terminator from T2 because he got melted into slag. So can someone please explain to me how there's a Terminator in this movie from Sarah Connor's past? Not only that, explain to me how it aged, how it got older. Nah, screw it, we're not going to explain that. How does he have a beard? Nah, screw it, we're not going to explain that. Why does he have a family? Who doesn't know that he's a robot, that doesn't know he's a Terminator, doesn't know... This was pathetic. Oh yeah, and there's a dog on his lap. Screw you. There's a dog accepting a Terminator. Fuck you. Fuck you, movie. It was literally the movie rubbing how goddamn stupid it was in the audience's face. There was a dog on Arnold Schwarzenegger's lap, on a Terminator lap. Yeah, because, you know, screw how it actually worked in the first two movies, because what? It doesn't matter that it was nice to the mother and his son, whatever his name was. It's a Terminator. The dog should have been either constantly barking. When I saw the dog on Arnold Schwarzenegger's on the T-800's lap, I lost it. I swear to God, I lost it. And the example is in the movie it was explained how Sarah Connor, that various Terminators came in through and eventually killed John Connor. Yeah. Okay. So one, she killed all the other T-800s that came through, and two, the one that did kill John left. He didn't stick around. So I want to know where Arnold Schwarzenegger's Terminator came from. Does anybody know? Does anybody even care? Because obviously the writers and Tim Miller didn't. And the whole logic of how the T-800 was able to identify where the other Terminators were going to show up, this was so mind-numbingly stupid, I had to write it down because I couldn't remember it. When chronal displacement occurs, there's a shock wave through time measurable before the event. That's absolute bullshit. That doesn't even make any sense. First of all, how did you measure it? What equipment did you have to measure this? Oh, and by the way, it's measurable before it even happens. Oh, because it's time travel, so you can find out how it happened before it happened. How soon? Like 10 minutes? 2 years? Like what? This explanation is such puerile pablum that you have to be brain dead. Gee, I use that a lot in these movies for some reason. You have to be brain dead to even accept that as it's ridiculous. There's just so much to trash about this movie, but I'm literally at a loss for words on where to start. There's just... I don't even care anymore. Okay? This movie was a waste, and with what they did do with this movie was pathetic. the explanation, and the fact that this movie made the first two movies irrelevant. Somebody shoot this guy. This is insane. This movie made everything that Sarah Connor went through irrelevant because now Legion got formed. Why? Why couldn't Skynet still have been? If you can't change fate, why wouldn't it still have been Skynet? Again, they still had the T-800 equipment from T1. So why wouldn't it still have been Skynet and it still just would have produced the future that it needed? In this movie, we need Danny alive because apparently Danny was the only person in the future that was able to convince people to not fight each other and fight the Terminators or the Rev 9s. She was the only one. If it was all about Grace wanting to go back just to save Danny because she was the one that saved her, and this was her way of repaying Danny, that would have been better. If that's all it was, that would have been so much better because it was like, you saved me in the future, so I came back into the past to save you. That was Grace's way of thanking and repaying Danny. Fine. No. We need to keep Danny alive because without Danny, the humans would have never thought, nobody else in the future would have gathered people together and inspired. With John, it's established that Sarah Connor trained him to be ready for this, so that when it did happen, John knew what was going to happen, already had, because again in T2, Sarah had all these little, not safe houses, but like weapon depot stashes. She already established everything she could so that when the Skynet did come into prominence, John was already ready with whatever was necessary beforehand. But with Danny, it's like, no, she's the only one in the future that's able to... It was so goddamn pathetic and weak. It was ridiculous. Again, if it was just Grace going back just to save Danny to thank her or to repay her, that would have been way better motivation, way more of an explanation and a reason than she's the only one that was able to motivate people. And then when we get, I don't even know if it's called a flashback because it happens in the future. But when she remembers how when she was younger, right? So there's all these groups of people. There's these three people who were gonna kill Grace as a kid for her food, and then Danny shows up by herself, but has like a squad of people behind her. Nah, I'm just gonna go up by myself, kick their asses, and then somehow convince them to join. It was pathetic beyond. It was more pathetic than it should have been, but somehow, Tim Miller, you exceeded your pathetic expectations. Congratulations. Again, there's more I could bitch about, but again, I think I got my point across. This movie was more of a disappointment on what it could have been than a disappointment on what it ended up being, because it was fail all the way through. Anyway. That's my review of Terminator Dark Fate, or my analysis or my viewpoint, or explaining to you how goddamn stupid this movie was. Now again, most of you already know this, but for those of you who didn't know this, here's how this movie sucked, and here's how this movie could have been goddamn so much better. Oh, and by the way, it's the same excuse with like T3. For some reason, they skimped on the budget for the special effects to the point where Arnold Schwarzenegger for T3 had to put up his own money just for some of the action scenes. But this was supposed to help rejuvenate the franchise, you goddamn morons. Why don't you put money into... Anyway, I know I keep saying I'm done, but, one more thing. Okay, now I'm officially done. My rant is over. I stopped caring now. I'll shut up now. Okay, I'm done. See ya. Bye.